Hi, this is Avar from Scrappy Mania, and today I'm going to teach you how to create a bowl cozy. For this project, you're going to need a sewing machine and some thread. You're also going to need 2 pieces of 100% cotton, and you don't want to use synthetic because you don't want anything that will melt in the microwave. So you want stuff that will handle the heat well. So 2 pieces of 100% cotton, cut 10 by 10. So then you're going to need 2 pieces of 100% cotton with no scrimp. There are some called warm and toasty without the scrimp. And they also sell batting that are made especially for pot holders or made for potato sacks and stuff like that. So go ahead and ask your local fabric store and they'll direct you to where you can get the batting that it's 100% cotton without any additives in there. So I have 2 10 by 10 pieces that are already cut. And what you want to do, and the reason why you want 100% cotton with no scrimp is that you don't want it to melt in the microwave. You want it to make sure that it holds up to the heat. So you're going to go ahead and make sure that your right side is facing down. Your pretty side. So you're going to put your pretty side down. And this one doesn't make any difference one or the other, but it looks like it's brighter on this side. So that's going to be my outside layer. Then you're going to take your batting. And make sure that you square your batting onto your fabric. Okay. It looks even. Now you're going to turn it over, and now we're going to go ahead and create our center line because we're going to sew from one corner down to the opposite corner, and we're going to do it each side. So you're going to take a nice ruler, or you can iron it. If you use the iron, you just fold it in half and iron and make a crease, and you sew on that crease, or you can just take a marking pen and mark it. You're not going to see this. That's going to be inside of your bowl cozy. This is just to give you a guide so you can sew your batting. So that way it will stay put inside your cozy. Okay, so I did that to both of my pieces. So now you're going to go ahead and take your sewing machine. And actually, let me go ahead and I'm going to test to make sure I got a good stitch before we even start. So I'll be back. Now you don't need to back stitch because we're going to enclose that corner. But you follow your line. And the line really helps a lot to keep your stitch straight. Lift up your needle, lift up your foot, go to the opposite corner, pull your thread, and then go on the opposite corner and go down the line. And that's pretty much it. Just trim your threads. Then you'll do the same thing on this piece. And I'm going to go ahead and do that off camera, and I shall be back and I'll show you how to create the dots. Now that we have both of our panels sewn, what we want to do, I'm going to go ahead and turn this off. So that way you can see a little better. Okay. We're going to go ahead and fold, and we're going to go from corner to corner. we're going to fold our panel in half and grab a ruler, and we are going to go 1 inch in. As you can see here, I'm going to go 1 inch in, so you can see that, 1 inch in and 2 inches down. So here's 2 inches and then 1 inch. Okay, and see how you see that, 1 inch, 2 inch, and then you're going to draw a line from one dot to the next dot. So from the 2 inches to the 1 inch. And if you want to make sure it doesn't move, you go ahead and put a pin. You're going to do the same thing on the opposite side. I'm going to go 1 inch over, 1 inch from corner to corner, and then 2 inches down. Then you take your ruler and you go from corner to corner. And I put a pin, especially if you're starting out. You want to go ahead and put a pin so you don't move, so that doesn't move. And then we're going to go ahead and sew that. So now we're going to sew from here to here. Let's go ahead and sew from one corner to the next. And this time I'm going to go ahead and do a back stitch. And then I'm going to do the same thing here. Corner to corner. Back stitch. And then a back stitch. Okay. Okay, so you see how I sew from corner to corner? Then you do the same thing here. And how you cut from corner to corner. Then, let me go ahead and move you back. We're going to open and do the same thing on the opposite side. So one thing you can do, you can go ahead and pin this like so. Now we go ahead and flatten this out, and we're going to do the same thing. You're going to go ahead and measure 1 inch from the top and 2 inches on the side. Draw a line across. And then we're going to do the same thing on the opposite side. One inch from the top and 2 from the bottom. And then we're going to draw a line. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to sew it. Back stitch. Then sew on that line. Back stitch. Lift up your press-a-foot. Bring it to the opposite corner and do the same thing. Trim your threads. Remove your pins. And now it should look something like this. See how it's starting to create that bowl shape? It looks like this. So go ahead and do that to your second piece, and then we shall be back to put it together. Okay, so now we have the second one, and you see it creates a bowl as well. So the next thing I want to do is I want to create a nice rounded edge. I don't like these points. I like my cozy to be a little rounder. So on the batting side, I'm going to take this ruler. This is the round corner, and you have a large curve and a small curve. I like the small curve, so I'm going to go ahead and place that right there. I think that looks good. So let's go ahead and make sure we measure, so that way we put it on the same spacing. So it looks like you may want to bring it three-quarters of an inch down from the top. I think that would be good. 3/4 of an inch, and then place your template right there and create that round edge. Do the same thing here, 3/4 of an inch right there. Bring your edge. Okay, make sure it's even. Do the same thing here, 3/4 of an inch. Bring your template right against the ruler. And I'm actually matching the center. See, there's a center line with the center stitch line. Center stitch line on your sewing, your sew line, and then you put. So then we're going to go ahead and do this next side. 1/4 inch down. I'm going to go ahead and match my center line with my center stitch line. I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing with the other panel, and I shall be back. So now that I have all my corners marked, I'm going to go ahead and cut the excess, leaving about 1/4 of an inch. And you don't want to cut it too deep because it's going to unravel, but just leave like about 1/4 of an inch, or that's probably 1/8 of an inch. And just cut these excess off. You want to decrease the bulk, especially when you sew it on. You want to make sure that it's not gonna cause issues with your sewing machine. Okay, and it's gonna look like that. We're gonna do the same thing on the other panel. Okay. So now that you do that, you're going to go ahead and put the one bowl facing with the right side up. Then you're going to take the second bowl and you're going to put it inside the first bowl, well, the first panel, and you're going to match the seams right here. You're going to go ahead and match those seams. Okay, and you're going to pin it. You want to go ahead and make sure you pin each of these corners. You're going to make sure you're going to pin each of the seam. You're going to do the same thing here, matching the seams together. And then I go ahead and pin it. and pin. I left some thread here, so hopefully you can see what I'm doing. You're going to go ahead and match the seams together. I like to push all the excess to one side, and then here this excess to the opposite side, so it decreases the bulk. And then you're going to do the same thing here, matching the seams together. Now we're going to go ahead and match, put some pins around here, and we're going to match the corners. So I'm going to put some pins here. And I'm going to do the same thing here. And actually I forgot to mark this here, so let me do that real quick. This is a very forgiving project. It doesn't have to be exact. And I forgot to mark that corner. There it goes. Let's mark it real quick. There. Make sure I match my corners. Do the same thing here, matching my corners. And before I put my last corner together, I want to go ahead and mark where I'm going to stop, create a back stitch, and then leave an opening so I can turn it over. And I like to leave an opening on my straight area. So I would say, you can just guesstimate, but about an 1.5 to 2 inches will be good. So I'm just going to go ahead and leave it from here to here. Just enough so that I need enough room so I can turn my my project. So I can go ahead and pull it and turn it. Okay. So now we're going to start sewing. So I'm going to start from my marking right here and just sew in 1/4 inch. And I'm gonna back stitch. Turning the corner. Make sure you remove your pins as you go along. Follow your line. You just follow that. So right here I'm at the turning point. Remove your pins. And use the marking for your 1/4 inch. So the 1/4 inch from that mark that you created. And keep going around. bring your needle down, and that helps you turn the corner a little better. Go slow around the corners. Removing your pens as you go along. When you stop, just make sure you bring your needle down just in case. You don't want to lose your position and move the fabric. So now I'm getting to the end of my, where I wanted to stop. So I'm going to go up to that dot or that mark, and then I'm going to backstitch. Okay. Now let me put you out. So we're going to go ahead and make some cuts so that way it will be easy to turn. Plus we're going to cut out the excess here. So I'm going to go ahead and trim the bulk. Okay, maybe I need to trim a little more. Now what we need to do is we need to go ahead and cut in between here so that way it makes it easy. It will ease the fabric as we turn it. So make sure you cut in just at those points, just at the corners here. You're just gonna cut in a little bit so that way you're giving it a little more movement to your fabric. See how it opens and moves a little better? So it won't be so tight when you turn it. And I got that. So now right at the opening here, we're going to go ahead and pull. It's going to be a little tough, but you'll be able to pull all your, and actually this opening was a little too small. So I should have made it a little bigger. Actually, it'll work. And that's why you need to go ahead and backstitch, because you're putting stress, pulling the fabric out, you're stressing that stitch line, so you're giving a little more reinforcement. So I'm going to go ahead and pull it out and I'll be back. And maybe you may want to leave a 2-inch gap or 2.5-inch gap. But now that you have turned your project, you're going to go ahead and take your chopstick or anything that it's a bolt, anything that has a blunt end. You're going to place it through the hole and just make sure that you pull the edges nice and neatly like so. See how I pull the edges, and I'm really making sure that I have a well-defined curve on my bow. And see, you just pull and really work with it. Use your chopstick and really push out that edge. And because you did create those cuts, see how it kind of really nicely lay flat? Otherwise it will not lay flat for you if you don't do that. Push it out, put your edges out. And here is the last edge. Now this is where my opening was, so you want to go ahead and iron the edges. You want to iron this, so that way you're going to go ahead and do a straight stitch on top of on the edges. So now that you have it all out, we're going to go ahead and take it to the iron it flat. I'm going to go ahead and off camera, it's going to iron this, and then we're going to create a stitch line all throughout the edge, so it will keep it all nicely in place. So let me go ahead and take this to the iron, and I shall be back. Okay, so I'm over here at the iron, and see how once you iron it, look at that edge compared to these edges. So the way to iron is you're going to go ahead and make sure you pull your edges and get a nice crisp edge. Then you just really iron it like so. Now this is the area that has the opening. So what I like to do is I like to iron around all the other corners before I tackle that area. So now we're going to go ahead and push that down. And enclose that area. And sometimes because it gets a little distorted, you may need to push some more fabric in to create a nice crisp corner, and then just iron it down. And see, now when we do a straight stitch, it's going to hide all that, and it's going to look nice. So I'm going to go ahead and press some more here. I just want a very nice crisp edges when I do my straight stitch. And I'm going to go take you back to the sewing machine, and let's go ahead and sew a straight stitch. We'll clean it up. And see, just nice little straight stitch, and it closes that area pretty nice. And you don't even know where the opening was. So this is one cozy. Now I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing with the second one, but I'm going to teach you a different type of finish. So now I have both of these done. So the next thing I want to go and show you how to create a square corner. So what you want to measure is 1 inch from the corner down. And I went and got my smaller ruler. So I'm going to measure 1 inch. I'm going to line the center line, my center stitch line, to the center here. right here. And then I'm going to go from the top corner to 1 inch down and make a straight line right there. Okay, you're going to do that to all your corners. Okay, once you've done that, so now you're going to do the same thing. So you're going to have the right side up, and then you're going to turn your second paddle with the right side down, and you're going to insert this one into your other paddle like so, and then you're going to match the edges like we did before. So you're going to match those edges and you're going to pin it. So then now that I have it all pinned, I'm going to sew all the way around. I'm going to leave this opening. This time I'm going to leave a bigger opening. So I'm going to leave the opening from here. Let me measure. I think I'm going to leave about a 4-inch opening up to here. So I'm going to go ahead and do a back stitch here, sew around, and stop here, back stitch, and leave that gap right there. So that way it'll be easy to turn. So let me go ahead and get started. So I'm right at the dot that I made where I wanted to stop. I'm going to back stitch. Now I have a nice generous opening, and it'll be perfect for me to turn my project without too much effort. You want to go ahead and cut your corners like a 1/4 inch. Leave about a 1/4 inch on each of those corners. The next thing I want to do is I want to go ahead and cut on the darts here on each side, so that way I give it a little bit of flexibility when I turn my project, and then I iron it, it's going to iron flat. Make sure you be careful not to cut into your stitch line. And I'm just going to cut a little here. Okay. Now we're going to go ahead and turn this over, and because I left a nice generous opening, it was a lot easier to turn over and pull. Okay. Then we're going to go ahead and go to the iron, and we shall be back. Okay, we're at the iron, so I'm going to take my chopstick and I'm going to push those edges out. And actually, let's go ahead and let's trim those edges. I'm going to pull this out again. What I forgot to do was we want to go ahead and trim these edges because I want to have a nice crisp edge. So trim your edges like that. And just trim around it. And just cut the bulk. Being careful not to cut too much that your stitch will unravel. Okay. Now we're going to go ahead and turn it over again. take your chopstick. I like using chopstick because it really, I like using chopstick because it's economical, it's free, and when you push, see how when you push on the corners or the edge, it really makes a nice sharp edge. And look at that. I like how that looks. You can use your fingers to make a crisp edge and to ease the fabric. Push on the corners. Okay, you want to push on these corners, and the last corner is right where the stitch line is. Okay, so now what we want to do is we want to go ahead and fold these in, but before I fold it in, I'm going to keep moving the fabric to just get a nice edge. And now I'm ready for my iron. Bring my iron over, and bring you down, and really work on those edges. See how I'm just pulling, I'm moving the fabric in between my fingers just to make a nice crisp edge. And then I'm going to use the iron to really seal that edge. Okay, so now we're at the opening. So what you want to do is you want to iron that edge. So let's go ahead and iron this edge. Make sure you get a sharp edge. Okay, and see, I'm going to turn it around and just going to iron everything. Okay, so let's go back to the sewing machine and let's just do a top stitch and we should be done. So I'm right here at the sewing machine, and if you have a purple thing, this is called a purple thing, and I'll put the link on the video description, but it helps to get your hand away from the needle, but you can still hold on to your project. And this will be good for me. See how this is open here? I can go ahead and use my purple thing to guide this inside the sewing machine without having to put my hand in harm's way. So I'm going to go ahead and do a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And using the purple thing, I'm going to push that edge in, and then I'm going to position this edge on top, and I'm going to guide it. I'm going to hold it down. See how I hold it down while the machine sews it in place. There. So I'm done with my 2 cozies. So this is my one. I like actually this one better. It has nice stretch edges. It's unique. You don't see a lot of them like looking like this. And then this is the rounded cozy. So I have 3 types of bowls. This is an IKEA bowl. These are from Costco, a little more, it has more depth. So let's see how they fit. Works good. So you can use it for this bowl and put it in the microwave, and that way you can hold your hot item. You don't burn your fingers. And let's look at the square one. I like it how it looks better here. I like this type. Works better with the square edges. I really like it. And see, looks almost like a flower. I like it. Then let's look at the other one. It works fine there as well. Actually, for this one seems to work better. And then for the little IKEA bowl, even though it's a little small, but it's still, this one works nice, see, for the IKEA bowl. You can put it in and pull it out. So I hope you liked this video on creating these cute little cozies. They're perfect to give as a set. You can make 6 of these within an hour really quickly. You have everything cut out and just sew it, sew it. And they make perfect little gifts that you can give to somebody special. So I hope you like it, and thank you for watching.